Good morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you are watching, you are listening. M&M&M across the board, Ashley Miller, Eric McDowell, Sean Martin with you as we are every week. And because of the times that we live in, there are certain times when life supersedes sports. Always life should overpower sports in almost every situation. But we didn't feel it would be right to come on here and begin a sports podcast without acknowledging what is going on in the world. And, bad stuff happens all the time, but it's not every day that 19 elementary school students and their teacher get shot and murdered. In Texas, this is a week after a grocery store gets shot up and we have African-American victims. The world it's a crazy place right now. So we wanted to start by acknowledging it because Steve Kerr did something. Steve Kerr did what we would want to do, would get up and use a platform like he has last night. Before the Warriors Dallas Mavericks game, got up on his podium, and he's done it a lot, but voiced his opinion. And he's one of the few that has used his platform the way that he has, maybe like a Greg Popovich, but Steve Kerr has been one of the most outspoken people on this issue, and last night he had a reason to do it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you should. It's powerful. And good for him. I kind of wasn't really sure how they were going to do last night, and I'm not so sure he cared because, he put the spotlight where it should have been, and it wasn't a basketball game. And what I really appreciated about what he said was, yeah, we're going to have a moment of silence, but it's nice, but it's meaningless. It doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't lessen the blow. It doesn't change it. It's not going to change anything going forward. So good for him for doing that. And yeah, I wish more people in that position would. He responded to a LeBron James tweet. Let's get involved. Let's help. How can we get some money for the city? But the problem is people have to want to change the situation. Too many of them don't.
My wife stared at me and said, "Do you know who this man is?" I said, "Yes, I do." And then I watched it with her, and it was stunning. And it was the only way I could break a smile. I was proud of what he said as a PR person. If he walked up and went off the cuff, you let him go. And this wasn't about sports. It wasn't about a bad call or his team. He opened it right up, said, "We're not going to talk basketball." He happened to be in Dallas, but I don't think it would have made a difference where he would have been because he was very passionate about what he said. And it was extremely telling. The thing that stood out was when he said something we haven't heard anybody say before: "We are being held hostage by 50 senators." That was a remarkable statement. Another stunning thing is this week, the NRA is having a convention.
In Texas.
Just hope that there will be safety for the people that are very frustrated about all this, that they will not let their frustration cause some injuries and other things to happen at that convention. But for Steve Kerr, the hearts go out to you from the parents. Two of us are parents on here. A third will be. She'll bring a wonderful child into this world. We know that.
I'm not pregnant. That's not an announcement.
Not yet. You two will be great parents, just like Mr. Martin and my wife is. And it was extremely difficult to send a little girl out on a bus this morning, but we cannot let our lives stop. We must be every morning, give it all the love we have to who we have, and be blessed in what we have, and just pray that soon something will be done. God help us, something will be done.
Yep. Yeah. And listen, guys, I know there will be people out there who disagree with what Steve Kerr said, and that's fine. There will always be those people. There will be people who are not asking for extremes. I think at some point, something has to change, and then we see where we go from there. We see if it helps. It's trial and error, because right now we're just not trying, which I think is the most frustrating part for parents, for teachers, for people who are quite literally putting their lives at risk for no reason, for just going to work every day. So yeah, I think what Steve wants is change, and to see if that helps, because listen, we are the only country in the world with this problem.
Yep.
That's the truth. We're the only country in the world with this problem.
Yeah, look, the Bush administration took away the assault weapon ban. That's the first problem. The bigger, look, I'm not naive, right? If somebody wants to commit a crime, if somebody wants to go shoot somebody, they're gonna. Okay.
Yep.
But you got to minimize the access.
Mm-hmm.
There's no background checks, and that's what Steve Kerr was great about. I mean, it's not going to stop it, but
yeah, that's his biggest.
If you stop one, that's enough.
That
right?
guy went to a store and bought 2 assault rifles on his 18th birthday.
Exactly.
If you stop him, you save 20 lives.
Exactly.
And I know people will say like, yeah, they're going to do it anyway. Well, some of them are going to do it anyway, but you're going to stop a significant portion of that. And if that's all we accomplish, that should be enough. Like, not that it's enough, but that should be a step in the right direction. And that should be enough to encourage people that we're making the right decisions.
There are 2 words here, warning signs.
Yep.
We always hear that there are warning signs. These are ages that are vulnerable, that there are trouble. There are things that you see on the dark internet, as they call it. And when there are warning signs, something has to be done. The parents, the FBI, etc. Those warning signs are just like similar to what we had with a limousine crash. There were warning signs about that. But there are warning signs about young people. And those warning signs have to be addressed with mental health. And there are people out there that can help them in some fashion so they don't come to this point. It's out there. They need that help.
Yep.
They do. And that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's the other part. You have elected officials and you have scum on Fox News, which I don't watch, but I saw a snippet of it, that immediately they interviewed a border control person. They tried to deflect the news, the real news of the day, and turn it onto the border issue. Well, guess what? The shooter's in North Dakota and grew up in the same school district that he visited yesterday. Then you have, I'm going to read some tweets. Mitt Romney, Republican, very high profile, right? His tweet: grief overwhelms the soul, children slaughtered, lives extinguished, parents' hearts wrenched, incomprehensible. I offer prayer and condolences and know that is grossly inadequate. We must find answers. Well, I gave him a couple options: background checks and banning assault rifles.
Yeah. So then that's the thing. It's let's go. Okay, you're offering to find answers. Let's do it.
Do something. Words don't mean a thing.
Yep. Let's
do it. And then the slimiest politician in Washington, Elise Stefanik from our area. Pray for your Uvalde. Our hearts are absolutely shattered by the family suffering this unimaginable tragedy for the entire Uvalde community. But she does everything she can to promote conspiracy theories, anti-racial stuff, right? Yeah, a tweet, again, doesn't mean shit. What are you doing when the spotlight's not on you? And then they're promoting all this stuff. And then you have people blindly following this garbage from Fox and the other organizations, which are crazy, and their elected officials that they followed it in a cult-like manner. Then you mix in the mental health and then the easy access to get weapons. And guess what? We're having this conversation instead of talking about the NBA conference championship.
Yeah.
Right. So are we going to get serious or not?
Yeah. We had this conversation after Sandy Hook. We're having it now, and something tells me we'll be having it again in the future, because that just is kind of the way that it feels like we're just kind of stalled out. So
we have this conversation almost every week.
Yep. Until those in power decide that they want to do something, nothing will get done. And if you haven't seen the Steve Kerr thing, please watch it. I also read a tweet, and listen, people absorb what they want to absorb. I try to read everything. I don't agree with everything. I try to read both sides. I try to understand why people feel the way that they do. Matthew McConaughey, who is Mr. Texan, his hometown is Uvalde.
Yep.
Put out a tweet, and I just think it's really good. It's human, but that guy is literally as, red-blooded Texan as it comes, and he's getting to the point where he understands that some things are bigger than others. I think the most important thing was wants over needs. Like, what do we want? What are our needs? And so I just think it's a really important tweet to read. But yeah, read, absorb. I don't care what you watch, who you like, whether you're red or blue or whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, at some point we have to work as one team instead of two teams. I think that's the biggest problem.
we do have power, and the power we have, we're not elected officials, the three of us or the rest of us out there. But the power we have is to be nice. Okay, don't cut people off. Turn on the direction of the little things. Paying it forward when you're in a Dunkin' and paying the person behind. There are nice things that I was taught as a child that we're teaching our daughter, and we want that to pay when she gets older to do the same. We can be nicer to each other, and we can do things like have fun podcasts with three friends who truly love and respect each other and not scream at each other. These are the type of things that we can do. And by doing that, then the younger people will have those same values. That's what, it's not the only thing we can do. We can do it in our everyday lives.
Yep. You can vote. Listen, you can vote. Obviously it's become a thing. You vote the people you want in office. But yeah, I agree. I think that's where it starts, when you're kind to the person who doesn't have a friend, or you reach out to the person who is mentally unwell or feeling on edge. That's the stuff that saves people. And when it starts little, when it starts there, you don't know. And we may never know the trickle effect of one action, but that's okay. You have to be okay with not knowing how you are positively affecting the world. Like, just do it.
Yeah. I take my kids to the playground all the time. And one time, 6 weeks ago, there was a little boy sitting on there's a buddy bench that apparently if you're sitting on this blue bench, that means you want someone to play with.
Oh.
And it's at my kid's school. And I always tell them, guys, if you ever see someone sitting on that bench, go say hi to them.
Yeah.
Right? Here's your two guys, your two kids. So one day we were there and there was a kid there, and they went over to him. It turns out the kid was in their class, and he's also in their lacrosse camp that they're in. And now the three are awesome. They showed up the other night. They were excited when their friend got there, and they played. And that's been the hardest part about this, is the last 48 hours. Monday night, I'm watching my kids play lacrosse, and the innocence of 5.5-year-old kids. And last night, we're trying to figure out the right words to talk about it, just to they don't understand what's going on. And my wife said, what do you do if a bad guy comes into school? And my little buddy Noah goes, I fight. I'm like, I love your spirit. My wife's like, no, you think about coming home to your mother.
Right.
You get out of there, for what that's worth. But yeah.
Listen, the fact that you have to have those conversations with your children, and that those are conversations that are being had all over the country, it's sad.
It's absolutely
it really is. It's sad. And
And
I know it was hard for you guys to put kids on the bus this morning and bring them to school. And I think about, one of my best friends is a teacher, and I have little cousins. My first cousins are still in first, second, third grade. I have my best friends who have kids in elementary school. And those are the people that you think about on a daily basis when stuff like this happens, because it worries me that at some point we are going to know someone who is directly, if you don't already, at some point you are going to know someone who is directly affected by this, because people always say it's never going to happen here. It's like, well, guess what? It's happening everywhere. So, but we can start here and start changing the narrative, at least in our own lives, right? I like that, Eric. I like the thought behind it.
Thank you. Yes.
Good
I
try.
like the thought behind it.
So now let's go to sports.
Yeah. Sports, a little bit of controversial sports we'll start in. I mean, from one controversy to another, it's so baseball, Josh Donaldson, Tim Anderson. I listen, I don't know. And the biggest part about this is that we will never know exactly the relationship that these two had. Only they know that. And whether Josh Donaldson is telling the truth about it or Tim Anderson is telling the truth about it, I don't know. They're telling two different stories. My perspective on it is it's 2022. You can't go calling someone Jackie.
No.
End of story.
Yeah, here a couple points. One, it's been going on a few years. Apparently, they both Andersons say there is no relationship, and you don't joke around with somebody.
Correct.
If you're not buddies with. If you and I we see each other in an event and say something funny, that's one thing. But it's 2022. You don't go there. But here's what I do know: Josh Donaldson played with the A's for a long time. I don't know if he's a racist, but I know he's an asshole, and I know he's a bad teammate. And that's been brought up about him for Oakland, Toronto, Atlanta, Minnesota. He's had some issues. And the fact that, one, Liam Hendricks had the best take on it when they asked him. He said it was BS. He's like, you don't have that sort of banter with somebody you're not buddies with. Okay. So he just blew Donaldson's whole thing out. And Aaron Judge, he didn't even protect Donaldson.
Well, yeah.
He could have said, well, he did say he made a mistake, and that to me is condemning it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And Hendricks saying that, some of the White Sox players contacted some of the Yankee guys, say, hey, this has been going on for a few years now. And I read, and it's not confirmed, but I did read that Donaldson trying to get after Lucas Giolito in the parking lot last year at a game against the White Sox. So he has a history with them too.
Yeah.
So, but he's been involved in this stuff. Him and Manny Machado had a couple kerfuffles a few years ago when Donaldson was with Oakland and Machado was with Baltimore. So there's a history there with him, and it's hard to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Let me start with Tim Anderson, because this is a 4-2 talent. Really, he is. 300 hitter every year, a lot of speed, almost. He's going for some the fantasy stuff and all that. He's also a great face for Major League Baseball, which needs more African-American faces from the advertising, etc. And he's doing a lot of things with youth, so you see him quite often. I don't know how they feel about him in Chicago, but I think he's probably the most valuable player on that franchise. He has been, and I'm excited for the White Sox to finally turn it around after Boston, because they should win this thing, and he's an MVP candidate. He's an outspoken type too, but he's also very strong-willed, and I think he's very professional in the comments, and I believe everything that came out of him. And to piggyback Sean, I fully agree that you're talking about a 3,100 guy that does get hurt a bit, but a power bat, but there are issues with Mr. Donaldson. And it has happened in every stop that he has gone to. And look at the Twins trade. You may say, boy, they didn't get a lot back, Shella and Sanchez. They gave up a big bat. There's more to things than trades.
Sure.
There's Carl Crawford's, and there's Kevin Brown's. When a guy is a problem in a clubhouse and you've got a young team and some young talent like the Twins trying to come back this year, you don't need that. And that really explains to people now that deal, that it was addition by subtraction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people would probably be like, yeah, I'm sure Donaldson is in the wrong in this case. I'm going to give a suggestion to Tim Anderson. No one, I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care who you are. I would never refer to myself as Jackie, or that you are doing the same thing for baseball as Jackie Robinson. Time out. No one will ever be Jackie Robinson. Like if I was Rachel Robinson, I would be offended that Tim Anderson called himself Jackie Robinson. But she's the only one who can take up issue with Tim Anderson about that. Not people joking about it with them. Like he said it, okay, end of story. Whether you agree with it or not, or you want to laugh at him or not, you can't make a laughing matter out of him calling himself Jackie Robinson. Like again, it's 2022. You have to know better that it is construed as racist. I don't care the meaning behind it, whether or not you meant that. It is construed as racist. But yeah, I don't like that Tim Anderson referred to himself as Jackie, because I think it's insulting for what Jackie Robinson did for the game.
I don't know the context of what he said. He's trying to, my takeaway from it was he wasn't comparing himself to, he was just trying to be like the modern version of Robinson, but I don't understand what that means. Because again, I don't have.
You can't pick Jackie. You got to pick somebody else.
Yeah, it's probably not bad advice.
I mean,
but
he
I don't
integrated
understand the context.
baseball. Like,
and with Donaldson, I have no problem with a guy being a hard-nosed player. All right, that's one of the reasons why he gets into these skirmishes. But there's the difference between being a hard-nosed player and being an idiot. And that's what he did. It was stupid. And you got to, like you said, you got to know better.
Yep.
I
agree.
It goes back to what I think Anderson is looking himself, because of the fact they're trying to promote him as not representing, but as a vocal star African-American player. And baseball has less than they did years ago. That's unacceptable. That is absurd. Okay.
Yeah.
It's great to have Ohtani. That's outstanding. And Trout when he's on the field. But the fact is, Anderson is the closest they have to somebody who can relate to these kids. And I think that may be what he had in mind. It wasn't done well. But if he's the only one, there's a big problem there, a huge problem with baseball.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that he's the only black player who young black kids look up to. I don't think that's the case, but you're right. There are fewer black players who are put on this pedestal and talked about as the greatest ever than there are white players in a lot of ways, and probably not for the right reasons.
All right. We ready to hear from our friends at Mohawk Honda?
Let's do it.
Okay.
And then let's turn this positivity boat around here.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll try and start that right now.
Yeah.
This spring, folks, is the perfect time to get top dollar for your trade-in with the Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. Same-day check in your hand the day you trade in your vehicle. The new vehicle inventory continues to roll in at Mohawk Honda. To follow the newest machines coming in, to follow Mohawk Honda on their Facebook, Twitter, and social media platforms. Head over to Mohawk Honda's Facebook page and find out more about this year's Pet and Adoption Clinic. All of Mohawk Honda sales and leasing consultants will work with you to find the best vehicle for your budget and lifestyle. So visit Mohawk Honda in Glenville, New York this spring. Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you.
You.
Yo.
Yeah.
We had a fantastic guest on last week, and this just so happened to play right on into our guest right after. It was literally the day after this happened, and I just thought, oh, damn, we were a day too early. We had Dan Green on last week to talk NIL, and then Nick Saban goes and opens his big fat mouth and starts the most dramatic, ridiculous sequence of events in the SEC in a long time. And I thought it was a lot of fun.
What I think Nick Saban was trying to do is basically send a message to the Alabama boosters, you guys got to dig into your
Step
pocket.
it up.
But what Nick Saban should know better is this is 2022, and you got a microphone in your hand, you're being recorded.
Always.
His choice of words, I think, was the biggest issue when he's saying it. But he comes off as this old, stodgy curmudgeon who can't keep up with the times, is pissed that his recruiting class is number 2.
Correct.
And Jimbo Fisher one-upped him and said Texas A&M bought all their players. Well, they played within the rules. And then to bring Deion Sanders into it, let me tell you something. If you're going to give me a debate between Primetime or Nick Saban, I'm going with the cornerback. Yeah. Okay? Because he's smooth and he always has been. But Nick Saban, to me, comes off horrible in this. Well, I think it was just the wrong place and the wrong choice of words. But people are going to remember this for a long time. And I love Jimbo Fisher's response. I can't wait for that matchup. Yeah. I think it's in October.
Yeah. He basically was he's a scumbag.
I actually can see Nick Saban leaving the game sooner rather than later because he clearly doesn't like it. And he has nothing else to really accomplish. So, but he comes off really bad here, and good for Jimbo Fisher and even Deion. They said,
fire right on back.
They said, did he call you? He goes, he called me. I didn't take the call. He goes, you called me out in public. We're going to have a conversation in public. Good for him.
Yeah. I like what Dan Wolken of USA Today said. I think it came out this morning. Great column. The moment a little bit of money started to flow to the players, they try a pair of 9-year-olds in the playground squabbling over whose turn it is to climb the monkey bars. And I'm not talking about Sean's two boys because they play with kids on the monkey bars. But I would not have advised Fisher to do a presser. It's a reactionary presser, but he had the right to do it. Okay. He called Saban despicable, narcissist, can't handle losing recruits, suggested he has been cheating for years. Remember, he spoke with him, encouraged the reporters to go dig into the past. It's please hit the brakes, okay? Again, PR-wise, do you have to go there and dig the hole for everybody? And
you gotta stand up for
very
yourself.
disappointing the way he reacted. The other one was maybe somebody should have slapped him. He mocked the idea of calling him the greatest when you got all the advantages. It's easy. He just went deep down, but he got what he wanted. He got the Saban apology, right?
But the apology was BS. Oh, I didn't mean to call people out. Well, you didn't? You literally said that they cheated their way to the top. And you named 2 specific people and programs. If you didn't mean to call them out, you wouldn't have said it.
Jimbo Fisher wasn't searching for a Nick Saban apology to me. He was speaking to his recruits and his boosters. He was basically saying, we're legit. He was speaking to those kids. Good one. He was speaking to those kids saying, we're legit and we do things the right way, but we are also Alabama's equal, and we're not going to take it from this guy. And he
Right.
blasted him, the moral, the God, the Messiah, and all that stuff that he said. That was awesome, I thought, and good for him. He's telling all his people, I'm going to stand my ground and defend Texas A&M University to every length, and good for him.
And I think the other thing about Saban's apology was like, well, I just meant that like the NIL is flawed. Well, then say that. Say the NIL and the NCAA is flawed. Don't say two specific programs cheated their way to the top and bought their players and don't say that. So I just had a problem with how he said it. The other thing that I just kind of laughed was like Saban threw out some very specific things. And he said, we didn't buy one player. Alabama players made $3 million doing it the right way. Only 25 players of his were able to leverage NIL opportunities. Well, then guess what? You suck at your job. And I know you don't suck at your job, but if only 25 of how many players are on a college football team?
Probably about 110.
90, 100?
Or so.
If only 25 players at Alabama had the chance to do something NIL related, what are you doing?
And
Every business in Tuscaloosa, I mean, the punter, the field goal kicker, the graduate assistant, they should all have NIL opportunities. It's Tuscaloosa, Alabama. All they care about is the Alabama football team.
And I'd have to look this up, but I think Bryce Young had $1 million by himself.
Yeah, that Dr. Pepper contract was huge. So, I mean, come on. There's no chance. No way. There's no way that people couldn't go to a mall and sign autographs, even if they were the offensive lineman, the defense, everyone. I don't believe it.
800,000 for Bryce Young.
4-letter word, okay? NIL is a 4-letter word. That's where it is. And the minute you mention that, all hell's going to break loose. They already had these wars against recruiting. Sean, you're exactly right, because he's taking the flames and looking at the people fishing, firing them up, supporting his program, and I guarantee you the checks came pouring in after that speech.
No doubt. You had people who were like, yeah, you go get them. Like,
hey, man, the best way to create some turf for yourself is you take on the big bully, and that's what Alabama's been for 15 years. So to stand up to him, and what he did with Jackson State, he gave them some legitimacy. I mean, that's free advertising for Deion Sanders and his program, saying we're coming to the point where Nick Saban's worried about us.
Right, like Jackson State is not even in the conversation of anything until Nick Saban brings him into it.
And he put him there because the top cornerback, the top recruit in the country, wanted to go play for the best coverage cornerback in the history of the league.
And like, if you haven't noticed, there's been a real emphasis on HBCUs and like kids wanting to go to HBCUs because you have black football players who want to go play for an historically black college. What's wrong with that? That doesn't mean that they paid him to go do it. He wants to go play for Deion Sanders, who also happens to be one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, who maybe that kid grew up kind of knowing, fringe knowing, like, hey, this is a guy, speaking of guys to emulate, this is a guy who I want to be like, who looks like me. Is that so hard to believe, Nick Saban?
No, and the other thing Nick Saban should know, because he gets transfers as many good players as he gets, he doesn't have to recruit. He loses a lot of people through the transfer system now because this day and age, kids want to play. They don't want to sit for 2 years. And that's where the Jackson States and Coastal Carolinas and everything come in, because they offer media playing time. And that's why you still have the haves and have-nots in college football, but the talent's a little more spread out now because of that. Kids want to play.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well,
and then you get paid.
Also, from a recruiting standpoint, it looks as though Mr. Saban's playing a little defense here now, that there's a little chip there. And that's a great thing you're recruiting, to say, hey, look, he's concerned about us. Okay. So in many ways, from a recruiting standpoint, it helps everybody. And congrats to Deion for putting a little college on the map. We've seen it in other cases with small schools that had a coach take over, and Eddie Robinson take over a small college, for example. And when that happens, that school's on the map, and it just fires up again everybody. And again, the checks come in. Proud alums say, we got Deion as our coach. Here you go. It's great.
Exactly. It's not hard to believe at all. Nick Saban. I can't wait though. Like, can't you just see it? The problem is, I get it. Texas A&M, they may have the #1 recruiting class. I could see them coming out and just getting smashed by Alabama. And then it turns into this whole thing again. Like, look what happened. It didn't even matter. He came out and did all this stuff, and then Alabama kicked their face in.
Well, the other part of Saban's anger, or whatever you want to call it, is he's used to, again, not even needing to recruit. He always has the top thing.
Right.
But now the rules have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And is he going to be able to adapt? Will he want to? He's had a great run. But, like I said, he just comes off looking even more old and stodgy than
sour grapes.
Sour grapes.
That's what I always say.
And I don't know if there are any rules right now. To me, the NIL is basically the stoplight and the stop sign have been removed, and a coach is in the middle of trying to direct traffic. That's where it is right now. Sooner or later, there'll have to be some things put in place about this.
Yeah. All right, Eric, it's your show, man.
Number of the month as we close out May.
Number of the month.
And we get this, folks, to the two groups, to all of us. Everybody has a list, and what we'll do is rank our top three. Now, some of our numbers have been more prominent in one sport in the past, baseball, hockey, football, etc. This one features a lot more variety, I think. We've got Hall of Famers, stars in 5 different sports here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can make a case for somebody from each sport.
Yep.
But I've only got the 3, so here I go. I'm going to start with number 3, Mike Schmidt, 12-time All-Star, World Series champion, 3-time NL MVP, World Series MVP, 10 Gold Gloves. Okay, everybody thinks of his bat. Possibly best third baseman ever. Also defensively, maybe Brooks Robinson ahead. He's got the Silver Slugger, Hall of Fame in baseball, of course. Most homers all time for a third baseman at 515, and his number 20 is retired in Philly. Number 2, I'm going Barry Sanders, 10-time Pro Bowl, 6-time first-team All-Pro, NFL MVP. Think of the talent that he did not have around him, okay? Pro Football Hall of Fame, College Football Hall. He's 4th all-time in rushing, 14,269. And his carries of 153, if you look at the lowest of the top 10 leaders. Because remember, he retired early while he was still able to walk, okay? What could have been, but it didn't have to be what could have been. What was awesome. And number 20 is gone in Detroit. Number 1 to me, I'm going Frank Robinson. 14-time All-Star, 2 World Series titles. He's the only player to win AL MVP and NL MVP, okay? Played with Reds, Orioles, Cleveland. He has a World Series MVP, won a Triple Crown. He was NL Rookie of the Year with the Reds. Remember when they used to have a real team there? Baseball Hall of Fame. 10th in career homers at 586. First African-American manager. His numbers retired in Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Cleveland. An incredible impact on the sport. Frank Robinson, my number 1.
I like it.
Go
Sean,
ahead,
you want to go?
No, go ahead.
All right. I tried to mix it up. I did I did 3 different sports here. Number 3 for me is Ray Allen. So this guy is right in my wheelhouse for when I grew up. He was one of my favorite players. I don't really have an NBA team, so he's one of my favorite players ever. 10-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion. And just like when you think about him, you think he's one of the greatest shooters the NBA has ever seen prior to a guy named Stephen Curry. So for me, he was number 3. Number 2, Frank Robinson. You already gave all of the stats that you could ever need on a guy that most impressive to me is you win an AL MVP and an NL MVP. I just think it's cool. It's unique. It's different. And 14-time All-Star is, not so bad. Number 1 for me, I went Barry Sanders again because he was a little bit more in my wheelhouse. I remember watching him growing up. The thing that you feel so bad for Barry is like, what a wasted talent on the Detroit Lions. You would have loved to see him get playoff wins, Super Bowl victory for a guy like that. But one of the greatest running backs ever. We were lucky to see him, and so I went number 1 with him.
I'm going to give you 2 lists.
Oh, good.
Okay.
All right.
Real quick to summarize. 1, I think, is Sanders. 2, Frank Robinson, the Triple Crown winner, 2. And then 3 is Mike Schmidt, who ironically shares my birthday. I also want to go, I'm kind of getting into that college football mode, and maybe Coach Saban and Fisher and Sanders.
They inspired you?
Got me fired up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think number 20, Johnny Rodgers from Nebraska. Heisman Trophy winner, game of the century, big punt return. But then two other guys should get shout outs in college football. Billy Sims, Heisman Trophy winner for the Sooners. Great with the Lions, wore 20 before Barry Sanders. Unfortunately, knee injury shortened his career. And little known fact, Earl Campbell, who's the most powerful running back I've ever seen. I didn't get to watch Jim Brown play. Earl Campbell did wear number 20 at Texas before taking 34 with the Astros. I don't know why I'm thinking of the garbage cans today, Eric.
Sorry.
But Campbell did wear 20 at Texas when he won the Heisman Trophy in '78. So I'll give those three some props today.
He's the modern day Derrick Henry, wouldn't you say to people that never saw him play? Just rugged and tough to tackle.
He was a hammer. Go watch old clips of him. Poor Isaiah Robertson from the Rams literally got his sternum caved in trying to tackle Campbell down at about the 15-yard line one game. So
I'll throw you a couple others.
I was going to say honorable mentions here.
Lou Brock, seriously, just awesome career with the Cardinals. Jorge Posada, good career. Don Sutton, a Hall of Famer. You got in the hoops, Manu. I'm sorry,
Ginobili.
Manu. You know who I'm talking about. Manu.
No, I know
what he did with the Spurs. Did they win all those titles without him? Maybe not. Gary Payton. Football-wise, Ed Reed.
Ed Reed was on my honorable mention list.
Really tough to keep him out of there.
How about Eddie Belfour?
What's that?
Eddie Belfour.
Yes, hockey, Eddie Belfour, who I saw play in college. That's how old I am. And then Luke Robitaille, great career with the Kings.
Yeah.
And let us close that with Tony Stewart. There's our fifth sport. Pretty good car number 20 for Tony Stewart over the years, too. Great, fun number to play with a lot of talented players.
If I didn't have a bad experience with Tony Stewart, I would have put him maybe somewhere on my list. But he's not the nicest human I've ever come across.
No.
So I didn't. Now, he came to Fonda one time. He was a real jerk.
Okay.
Which I'm going to try not to judge him for one instance. Maybe if I met him another time, it would be whatever. But the instance I had with him was very not positive. So, good NASCAR driver.
I'd encourage you to go off on him a little more. I took some flack for encouraging you to use a bad word last week, so I won't.
No, listen, I like using bad words in my real life, so it's just a little more reserved here.
Okay.
All right. Do we want to hit NBA, NHL real quick?
Go after him real quick.
All right, let's do it. I wrote some notes. I'll lead the way here. Did you see the rain delay in the NBA game last night?
No.
Rain delay in Dallas. Halftime, it's raining outside. It's raining inside. Roof leak. Had to delay it for about 16 minutes, I think it was. But yeah, rain delay in Dallas, which Dallas, we talked about, you need Luka to be good, and he was very good. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. But he needed help. He wasn't always getting help. He was getting Spencer Dinwiddie once in a blue moon. 4 of their 5 starters and 2 players off the bench in double figures last night. That's the way you beat the Warriors. I mean, still, I don't give them much of a chance, but that's the way you hang in the series and beat the Warriors.
I think it's going to be their title, but there's still a long way to go.
The Warriors?
Yes. You know, there's still the finals and all that, but they just look. They should be. I do want to throw this one out for you if I could. Saw this from Kendrick Perkins' comment, and he made a good case about Curry. If he wins his 4th title and playoff MVP, is he on Mount Rushmore with Kareem, Michael, and LeBron? Okay, because you've got multiple titles, scoring titles, multiple MVP. Where's Wilt? Where's Bill Russell? Okay, it's a great discussion. I don't know how you keep either of them off, but frankly, he had him bumped over Magic Johnson as the number 1 point guard, and I think I have to agree with that at this point.
Not even.
Curry over Magic. If he wins this thing again, all-time 3-point leader?
Not even close.
No.
Magic played all 5 positions. He was impossible to cover. Different roles. I don't really consider Steph Curry to be much of a point guard.
This is the problem I have, is comparing people who are just so different.
Magic facilitated a lot of stuff. They didn't need him to shoot threes.
And Steph is not a facilitator.
Yeah, I don't consider him really true. Steph, I don't know, top 15 maybe. But Mount Rushmore, I don't see it. As great as I love the guy.
I have him in the top 10. That's it.
I would still say, like, if he's not already the greatest shooter of all time, he is by the time his career is over. He's the greatest shooter of all time. And
I'll give you that.
I just don't know where that gets you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where that gets you on people's mouth. Because you're the greatest shooter of all time, it's hard to believe, but like, greatest shooter of all time, maybe still not in people's top 5.
But he could win 6 titles. I mean, he's
no doubt. And if 30. He does, then I think we're having a different conversation.
Right.
I just think he's an interesting case because he is undoubtedly like one of the most talented players on the planet, and people still are kind of like, nah. He's interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Other series, who you got?
Go ahead, Sean.
Have you ever seen a series this weird?
I wish. It is weird. Everybody, each game, someone jumps out to a 20-point. I flipped it on the other night and it's 26-4.
Yeah.
I want the Celtics to win. The Heat I don't get excited about watching them play basketball, though I should. To me, it comes down to Boston's health. Robert Williams was awesome for them in Game 4. The thing with the Celtics is when they've had to win and had to come up with big performances in this postseason, they have. But Miami's a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really are. I mean, Adebayo can be a force down low. Mm-hmm. Butler's Butler. I think they missed Hero. Well, nobody would have helped them in Game 4.
But you got Lowry, Oladipo back, like those guys, what they've added. That's a good team.
I'll take Boston. I'll say Boston in 7.
I would like to see the Warriors against either one of those teams. I think it would be interesting. I think it would be good. I think both those matchups would be really good.
Well, how do you play so great and blow somebody out and then stink? It's like
it doesn't make sense.
You have to be back to the wall. But the defensive effort we saw in that must-win home game was remarkable in the first quarter. Okay, they allow only 11 points. He couldn't get any transition at all. It's remarkable. They did to Butler, I think, what they did to Giannis. Okay, but look at the box score at the end. They shoot 40% and 24% from threes and win by 20. How is that possible? Because you only turn the ball over 9 times. So Tatum was drawing the fouls. He made 14 of the 16 freebies. So the question is, are we going to see a 25-point lead by Miami in Game 5? I think the series could go 10, and it's just going to go back and forth. It's been really fun and really maddening if you're a fan of one of those teams.
Yeah, it's just kind of bizarre to me. Like it feels like a really strange series.
It has been. It has been. Game 4 was the only time the team that fell behind didn't rally back.
Right. Yeah, and everyone's those leads have been double-digit ballooned to almost 20, I think, in every game at some point. NHL, the Hurricanes can't win away from Carolina, which has made this series interesting. The Panthers laid a total egg, which blew my mind. And then, we're getting Oilers. It feels like we're getting Oilers in Colorado, right? That makes a lot of sense. I think the best series in terms of like competitiveness has been Rangers Carolina.
I'm praying for a Ranger win. I hate Carolina now with a passion. I really, really wish Max Domi had gotten himself some intestinal fortitude at the end last night and gone with Ryan Reeves. I'd love to see Domi get his ass kicked. But yeah, the Rangers got to figure out a way to go into Raleigh. I'll tell you what, a Carolina-Tampa Bay series to me would be the equivalent of a Bronco-Chief AFC title.
You're rooting for the West.
I'd rather brush my hair with a cheese grater than watch it. So Carolina and Tampa Bay, no thanks. At least the Rangers, I said it before, they've never done any harm to me in my 50 years of hockey fandom because they've been so irrelevant for all but a few. But they're fun to watch, and I hope they win. And I hope they can at least give me a team I don't despise. Colorado, Edmonton would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
I think Calgary's probably done. You never know. The Rangers came back from a 3-1 deficit to Pittsburgh, so it can happen. But Edmonton, the thing about it that's becoming the playoff story is Connor McDavid was the best player in the game before these playoffs. I don't know how many levels he's moved up.
Unreal.
But he has. He has taken his game to a level he's never played at before, and that's frightening.
He's really doing an incredible job there. And what's happening with Calgary is the goaltending suddenly a problem. They took out a goaltender who we talked at the start. Remember, Fluto said, they've got it all. Well, they didn't have the goaltending of late. So the Flames, anything can happen, but the way McDavid and Edmonton looks, they look like a machine right now. Very surprised, and hats off to the Rangers for what they're doing, because this isn't the Carolina that we saw in the other series.
Yeah.
And Tampa, Florida dominated on the shots. And that President's Trophy thing is lovely to look at, but it's not something you carry around the ice. It's not the Stanley Cup. So I agree with you, Ashley. I was stunned that the Panthers just got destroyed. And Tampa Bay is the Islanders of the modern era.
Yeah,
and they have a Hall of Fame goalie right now. And you read the quotes from Cooper and the players, and they said, we can do some things. We feel confident with him in the net. He is a rock, and he is proving the adage that a hot goalie will carry you. He's not just hot. He's consistently hot.
Yeah. I mean, I would take them over Carolina or the Rangers. Right. And if they keep playing this way, that's a fun Stanley Cup final, because I think they can compete with any of those. I think they can compete with the Oilers and the Avs. The way they're playing right now, I think they can.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Whiteboard?
Let's hope rain. Let's go Rangers. LGR.
LGR.
Yeah, we can go to the whiteboards.
That LG has become a real thing. LGM. Let's go Mets. Who's going first?
Who's leading off?
Ashley.
Sure. I mean, this is a boring thing to write on a whiteboard, but there were too many names that I was going to have to write on my whiteboard. So I just wrote future of golf. I'm going to go specifically on the men's side. And the reason I say that is because if you watch the PGA this past weekend, a lot of fun. I don't know that golf, that you're like just kind of normal run-of-the-mill golf fans would have said it was a lot of fun, like rounds 1 through 3, because you just had names that were a little different than normal. A guy like Mito Pereira, who many people, including myself, heard for the first time, who led most of the way, who led into the final round, and who blew it on the 18th hole with a double bogey, gave up the lead. Then a guy like Will Zalatoris, who has finished close but no cigar the last few majors, goes to a playoff with Justin Thomas, who, there's the name that we know from past tournaments, a former PGA champ, wins his second PGA. But the thing I was most impressed with, I love Justin Thomas, easy guy to root for. Will Zalatoris and Mito Pereira both did interviews after, maybe it's the worst moment of his golf career. I would probably say it's one of them. Couldn't have been classier. Said all the right things. Same with Will. Couldn't have been classier. Confident. Still like, I'm going to take lessons from it. I think I'm close. I know I'm close. This was a good learning lesson. Did the interview. There are so many golfers who even 10 years ago would have been like, nope, I'll see ya. Not doing it. So I just say the future of golf is bright because there are so many young stars. The last 4 majors, Jon Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas. The talent is wide. It's widespread. It's wide open. And I just think the class of a lot of these young golfers is better than it's ever been in terms of personality and the way that they deal with adversity.
Very good. Anti-Phil.
Yeah. Anti-Phil, anti-Tiger in a lot of ways. Just like they're different personalities. I like it.
Sean, what do you?
No, you go ahead. I'll finish up today.
All right. Well, this is the hat of the week. It's the Houston Astros from spring training West Palm in 2018. After their
Sean
title.
likes to call them the Houston
My
Champions.
brother-in-law there to his first spring training since he was living in Boca. And it was fun to see players before they started games. They hadn't started the schedule yet. And this gentleman we got to see, it's about a Hall of Fame career that was sidelined, in jeopardy, and rebuilt. Justin Verlander is our last hope for the old school. 8 All-Stars, led the AL 5 times in Ks, 3 no-hitters, won the Cy and MVP, later another Cy, 300K season in 19. Well, this gentleman cemented his plaque at the Hall of Fame. Then he had 1 start, 20, and it looked over. Not so. Thank you, Tommy John, because this season his magic is back. On May 10th, he lost a no-hitter in the 8th. As of May 24th, here he is 6-1, 1.22 ERA, 49K in 51 innings. It's Justin again. He's got 232 career wins, the active leader, 19th all-time in Ks. He also had a big victory with the famed surgery. What a great job it did. And he is 39, so he'd need about 3 more big seasons to get to the magic 300. But don't put it past him, okay?
Yeah.
Because he's very good at putting something past many a big league hitter.
Many
Hold on a
baseball.
second.
You think he'll get it?
He's going to bang a trash can.
Curveball, Justin. Do you think he'll get
Curveball.
300?
No.
No, I don't
Curveball.
either.
3 seasons is too many.
Right,
For
No,
I mean, you're talking 42 for a pitcher? No.
right.
No, it's
But
20.
I've been wrong before.
But a great career.
All right. Now, ironically, unfortunately, we're talking about random acts of kindness. This was going to be my whiteboard before the events in Texas yesterday. A good friend of mine, Chris Vitale, ball9.com, awesome baseball website.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. A lot of great writers there. On Twitter last week started something he called the Vitale Challenge. He just randomly Venmo'd somebody of his same name $10. And then challenged Twitter to do it. And I love doing that stuff. Eric, you mentioned pick up somebody's Dunkin' Donuts order. My wife and I like doing that, especially around the holidays. Every Saturday we go out, do it. But get away quick so people can't see you. They can't thank you. They take them with that. Actually, a few years ago, a Dunkin' I went to every week. I went the next Saturday and somebody had bought me 3 bags of coffee and put it in a nice gift bag because they asked the person, they don't know he's here every week. And I got it back. It came back to me. So that was awesome. So anyway, I did that on Twitter the other night and sent it to a Sean Martin, said, hey, from one Sean Martin to another, have an awesome day. Send him $10. He replied inside of 30 minutes and said, I really appreciate it. I'm going to pay it forward. So folks, the world sucks right now. Okay. It does, right, on so many levels, but do something nice for other people. The Vitale Challenge, whatever's in your means, even if it's $2,
I like
make
it.
someone's day. It doesn't take a lot to do that. A random act of kindness is fantastic. Real quick story on that. I wrote about it in my book. Years ago, before my kids were born, my wife was baking cookies for an event. I was on the phone with a good friend of mine from college in Long Island. And he goes, I would kill for some of those cookies. So she got done and I said, I'm going to overnight him a box of cookies. And he showed up the next day. I don't know how well they traveled, but he showed up the next day and saw the name on there and just was, it cost me like $38.
Yeah.
I said, but who cares? Because it made his day. And it was a surprise. And that was a lot of fun for Jim down on Long Island. So that's all I got.
Good man, Charlie Brown.
The Vitale Challenge.
The Vitale Challenge.
I'm going to see if I can find. Listen, my name is so common. I'll be able to. The 3 of us, it's not all, we don't have all that uncommon, I don't think. So I'm going to go on Venmo and find somebody.
There you go. Ashley, but there can only be one Ashley Miller.
Well, there can be many Ashley Millers. I can't wait to find one.
All right.
I'm gonna do it right
nice,
now.
Happy way to end. Wonderful job you two today. Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, be well, be safe, everybody. We appreciate you joining us. We hope we gave you a little bit of an escape from the world as we know it, because sometimes that's what sports is. It's an escape. We know it's not more important than life. It's just something that we love. We love to do. It makes us happy. So go out and make somebody else happy, because this makes us happy. We hope it makes you happy. Go do the same. See you next week.
Enjoy your day.
Take care.